Hello students, in this module we will be doing the Khilji dynasty. As we all know, we are doing the Delhi Sultanate, and in the previous module we did about the Delhi Sultanate and the ones who started it, the slave dynasty. In this module we will be moving on to the next dynasty, and that is the Khilji dynasty. In the Khilji dynasty we will study about the founder, who is Jalaluddin Khilji. After that, we can say Jalaluddin Khilji's son was not Alauddin Khilji. He was basically his nephew who murdered his uncle. And that Alauddin Khilji, as I told you earlier, was even seen in the recent movie Padmavat, played by Ranveer Singh. So over there, we can say Alauddin Khilji is the same person. He has depicted, or he has essayed that particular role in the movie. About Alauddin Khilji, we will be doing various things, what policies and things are related to his kingship, and that is the best market regulations were started by him. Next was the strict punishments. In all the ways, the crimes were not let go and the criminals were properly punished. Deccan expeditions, he was the one who got maximum number of victories in various places in the northern India, and then he became one of the few main kings who went on to the Deccan region to have or extend the empire towards the southern part. Next we see the after Deccan expeditions, the military reforms. There were many changes or many new things that were introduced by him in the policy, in the making, or you can say managing of the military. And among those, the important things are the Dag and the system of Chehra. These were basically the branding and the ranking systems that we'll be doing in the chapter. And lastly, we see the revenue reforms. There were certain revenue reforms which were started by him. What were they? We'll be doing all of them in the chapter or in this module when we'll be reading about them. So let's begin today's module, and that is the Khilji dynasty. Now we see that the last ruler of the slave dynasty was murdered in 1290. So in some way you can say in the ending of the 13th century, the slave dynasty came to an end by the murder of the last king, and the new rulers which were known as the Khiljis. Among these, we see the first person who was the founder of the Khilji dynasty was Jalaluddin Khilji. As I have already given you the name, the founder is Jalaluddin Khilji. He was the founder of the Khilji dynasty, and he was the one who came to the throne after killing Kekubad, the last king of slave dynasty. You might be asked, who was the last king of the slave dynasty? You should remember the name. It is Kekubad. So Kekubad was murdered by Jalaluddin Khilji, and somewhere or the other, we can say ironically, the same thing happened with him. Jalaluddin was also murdered. So we see he was murdered by his own nephew Alauddin Khilji, who proclaimed the title of Sultan after his death. Now, reading about the Khilji dynasty, as I told you earlier in the previous module also, we will be doing about one or two, maybe. Basically, we are not doing two, we are just doing one king per dynasty, all the important dynasties. Here we will be covering the slave dynasty, Khilji dynasty and Tughlaq dynasty. So we are doing one ruler from each dynasty. And in the Khilji dynasty, we are doing the Alauddin Khilji, who is considered to be the most famous, or you can say even if you call him infamous or famous, both the ways he was widely known. So Alauddin Khilji, after ascending the throne, Alauddin had to face a rebellion of the Mongols. They attacked the empire and they became a big threat for the empire in the Delhi Sultanate under the Khiljis. And who had earlier settled near Delhi. When Alauddin heard about this all rebellion, he got all the Mongols massacred. That means he did not find any way running away from the enemy, but rather he tried to face off with them and have a proper you can say fight or confront the enemies, and he defeated them. After that, he conquered many other territories, and I'll name some of them, which are Malwa, including Ujjain, Dhar, Chanderi and Mandu. And by 1305, he conquered almost nearly the entire northern part of the country, northern India. Then we see he had a strong army and he started paying his soldiers in the cash. Earlier it was the Jagirs and the Jagirdari system was famous, or the other ways of giving the you can say remunerations were there. But he was the first king who started paying salaries to the to the soldiers, and these salaries were paid properly in cash. Here we see what were the important changes that he got into his empire. Among these, we can say the best market regulations. The first thing. So under market regulations, Alauddin is known in the history for his market regulations. He divided the entire market into three different categories. We can say see this in this particular explanation. He fixed the cost of all the commodities so that nobody can charge anything or any every particular thing whatever he or she feels like. So the food grains, everything were, the charges were predetermined by the ruler. Sugar, cooking oil, all these things were pre-decided by the ruler. For this purpose, he set up three particular markets at Delhi. One market was basically related to all the food grains, and the second was related to the cloth and the determination of the price of the cloth or various types of clothes. And the third was for the horses, cattle, and you can say animal related. That was deciding the prices of the animals of each quality or brand that we might see. So each market was put under the charge of a particular controller. And who was the controller of the market, or what was he properly known as? He was known as Shahana. So Shahana was the one who used to look after any particular market that was under his rule. Very strict punishments were prescribed for cheating and underweighing goods, so that if a person or a shopkeeper or anyone who's a seller, a merchant or trader, if he tries to befool or cheat the people or his customers, and that is caught, he is caught red-handed, there were severe punishments waiting for such people, those who try to play smart or try to fool around their customers. So this was the way of controlling any kind of, you can say, corrupt business tricks applied in the market. So that was something which was very nicely done by Alauddin Khilji during his time of reign. Next we see Deccan expeditions. Alauddin Khilji was the first sultan during this era who had conquered maximum portion or nearly entire portion of the northern India, and that is why after winning that he decided to move towards the Deccan, and his Deccan movement was commonly known as Deccan expedition, which was commonly known as one of the biggest you can say movements done by the particular army over there. The kingdoms of Devagiri, Warangal, Dwar Samudra and Madurai, all of them were conquered by them, and then they were annexed to their kingdom. Alauddin did not annex most of the kingdoms for two reasons. First, he realized that it would be practically very difficult to have a control over the kingdom if it becomes very vast, if it has a large number of land area. It will be difficult to have a firm control in all the parts of the kingdom, and they might fall vulnerable at the hands of their enemies who will be in the border areas surrounding their states, their kingdom, in various different far off places. Secondly, he was more interested in acquiring wealth of these Deccan kingdoms. He was not into getting more and more land under his empire, but rather getting them under his lordship and then having more of taxes, or rather defeating the kings and looting away all their wealth, whatever the things they could have, plundering and looting done after the defeat of their enemy empire. So he was the person who was more interested in the wealth of the nations and the kingdoms rather than getting a hold on them as in the land area. Next we see the measures against nobility. There were certain particular measures that Alauddin did, and that was because many of the rulers around him, they were very keen to take away the charges or land areas of the Khilji dynasty, which were near to them and were far away from the central administration. So we can say he had to face a series of rebellions from the nobles, from many of the noble people, those who started revolting against him. And so he took a number of measures to crush all these opponents and crush their power. What did he do? I'll be reading it in points. That is, the nobles were not allowed to hold parties or festivities or to form marriage alliances without the permission of Sultan. So for each and every particular you can say festivity or marriage alliance, they all had to ask the permission of the Sultan. If the Sultan did not give them any permission, then it simply meant that they cannot have any such alliances. The use of wine and intoxicants was banned. So he totally banned all the alcohol and the toxic intoxicants. It was totally prohibited by various of the nobles and the other people. Next is gambling was forbidden and gamblers were severely punished. Along with the alcohol, we can say another important thing that was a miscreant in all the various rebellions was people getting into the habit of gambling. So therefore he had a proper ban on the gambling, and the gamblers were prohibited, or gamblers were not asked to be in the kingdom. They were severely punished for the act of gambling. He stopped paying the soldiers in land and introduced cash salaries. That means he did not want all the soldiers to have jagirs. Rather, giving them jagirs, he gave them only the cash. So that means all the land and the jagirs, all the wealth from there came to the king directly, and the king was supposed to give all the distribution to the soldiers in terms of cash as their salary. Next was he established an effective spy system also, since he had a lot of rebellions, lot of people who were ready to revolt, and there were many enemies surrounding the entire kingdom. So it was very important for the Khiljis to know and have a proper information of the surrounding kings and kingdoms, and therefore it was an important part of most of the kingdoms, and he was one who did this particularly with ace, and that was the spy system, to collect all the secret or important information from the nearby or surrounding kingdoms. Next is the military reforms. As we see, these two reforms which were most importantly made by Khilji in the military, these were the important parts which are always mentioned in history. These are the important things that he did in the military reforms, and this was, he was the first ruler in Delhi who laid the foundation of a permanent standing army. That means almost always a particular part of an army was always ready to attack or face any attack. So a standing army means an army always ready to have a fight or a battle. He imported quality horses and started the system of branding the horses, and the better quality horses were branded, and these branded horses or branding of horses or giving them categories, it was known as the system of Dag. With this, the better horses were given a particular different brand, and they were categorized according to their capabilities, health, and the upkeep was given accordingly, so that the better horses were given to the royalties and the not so better might be given for other reasons. Therefore a standing army would have a better breed of horses. Next we see he also introduced the system of Chehra, i.e. giving a kind of identity card for every soldier. So every soldier, like today you have the ID cards, similarly they had a particular system of giving a particular identity to the soldiers, so that they know who are their soldiers, who are at what levels, and accordingly they can be identified and can be categorized as well. He himself approved all recruitments, so nobody could enter the army without his approval. He was supposed to give the assent, and only then a person was supposed to be in the army. So that is one of the important part that he did as a particular recruiter of the army, because he knew army was the strong thing under the kingdom, and that had to be always maintained as a you can say quality army should be there, quality people should be there in the soldiers, ready to fight properly and fight sincerely with all you can say their loyalty towards the empire and the emperor. Next we see the revenue reforms. This is by far the last topic of the module. Here we see revenue reforms are Alauddin Khilji introduced number of important measures to get maximum revenue. Since I have told you earlier also, since he was a king who was always interested in getting more and more wealth and more money, so we can say he was always interested in getting some or the other new ways of getting more revenue, more taxes, more wealth, having more of the wealth and material wealth. So in that case we can say it was not only the other particular reasons, but even through the taxation and revenue he made various changes so that he can get more and more wealth. What did he do? He brought all the land of the empire under his direct control. That is why we see that the jagirs were not given to the soldiers and all the land was not distributed to various post holders. Rather, the entire land of the empire was brought under the direct control of the king. He introduced the practice of measuring the land and fixing the state share accordingly. That means it was Alauddin Khilji who decided with all the farmers, all the people, those who were peasants and into farming. It was Khilji decided that whatever the size of the land they have, it should be properly measured, and then according to the size or the measurement, whatever the amount of the land these farmers or peasants have, a particular share of the state will be decided, and that amount of whatever that amount comes to, that amount will be like a tax from the land or revenue tax for those particular farmers. So that means everybody had a different share to give. That was all on the basis of their land. It was equal percentage but different amounts. I hope you understand what it means. Every land was different in size, and therefore the share of the state was according to the size of the land, whatever the percentage it was supposed to be given. He increased the land revenue from 1/3 to half. That means if a person had a land of one particular area, you divide it into three parts, and 1/3 meant that one part out of those three parts would be of the empire, the remaining two parts will be given to the farmer. But now Khilji decided that this should be changed, and it became half. That means whatever the amount of land a particular farmer had, it was divided into half. Half the portion would go to the empire, to the ruler, as a land revenue, or the revenue on the particular whatever tax or whatever on the crop and things are grown there or done on the land, and the other half was given to the person who was farming on it or using the land for any particular purpose. So taxation went higher from 1/3 to almost half the produce. Next we see and demanded it to be paid in cash and not in kind. So that meant that a farmer who grows 100, you can say kg, supposedly for example a farmer grew 100 kgs of potatoes in his land. In that case 50 kgs of potatoes are supposed to be like the share of the emperor. It should be given to the king as a sultan as a tax. But it was not given as 50 kgs of potatoes to the king. Rather, he had to sell all 100 kgs. Whatever money he was supposed to make out of that produce, out of that money, that 50% would be given to the emperor. Supposedly 100 kgs he sold for 10 rupee each. I'm talking about the modern day example. So that meant 1000 rupees. So out of those 1000 rupees, 500 was supposed to be given to the ruler, and 500 was supposed to be kept with the farmer. So in that similar way, he did. The farmers used to do at that particular time period. They were supposed to give all the land revenue, all the taxation, everything in terms of cash, but not in terms of kind. Towards the end of his life, he was dominated by Malik Kafur, his commander. Malik Kafur was given to him as by his uncle Jalaluddin Khilji only as one of the servant. But later onwards, that servant became a constant companion, and finally he rose to the level of the chief commander also, Malik Kafur. And this Malik Kafur later in the years dominated all the, you can say, decisions that Alauddin Khilji was supposed to make. They were all dominated and decided by Malik Kafur. So he became like a ghost ruler over there. That means it was Khilji's name, Alauddin Khilji's name, but the decisions and every particular policies were given and made by Malik Kafur. After many intrigues, the Khilji dynasty finally came to an end with Ghazi Malik, the governor of Dipalpur, ascended the throne. So later onwards, after all the various ups and downs, after Alauddin Khilji and various other smaller kings, this Khilji dynasty came to an end, and because of this ending of Alauddin Khilji, the empire broke into various other smaller pieces. Most of the parts of the northern India were lost, and later onwards, it was the Delhi Sultanate was ascended by Ghazi Malik, and he was the governor of Dipalpur, and he became the new emperor of the entire Sultanate. He was a governor, means he was governor under Alauddin Khilji only, and he rose to the power of emperor when after Alauddin Khilji's death. And that is how the Khilji dynasty came to an end. And here we move on to the next topic, and that is you can say the next dynasty that we are supposed to do, and that is your Tughlaq dynasty. Now in this module we are going to end up only with the Khilji dynasty. About Tughlaq dynasty we will be doing in the next module that we'll be studying, and in that module we will try to finish this particular entire topic and chapter, and then we will move on to the last module, and that is going to be your question answers. So with this we come to the end of the module for today, the Khilji dynasty.